Y'all know what's going on. It's time for another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and welcome to Season 2, Episode 1 of Undercover Gangsta. Now listen, J-Mack, he's making moves. He's trying to figure out, should he wipe out anybody across the organization, throughout the state, throughout the penitentiary, that's still loyal to Tasmanian Devil? Or should he give them one opportunity to plug in or plug out? Or should he just get rid of Tasmanian Devil himself, all the way outright? Because he had to make sure that this was not going to be a persistent problem for him. He had done everything that he knew to do to make sure that he fulfilled the arrangement that he had made with the warden to bring peace to his prisons. Yes, within limits, within boundaries, but to bring peace, to get things under control. Because what you got to understand is that it's a certain level of things that are going to happen in prison. You just got to figure out what your threshold is. And the threshold that had been relayed to J-Mack was that the Two-Face Mafia had gone too far when he stepped away. They wanted to rein that back in, because the things that they were doing in prison was bleeding over into the streets, and it's making the communities unsafe. And the new governor was not going to tolerate any of that at all. And he had done that, but he wanted to make sure it wasn't going to come back. It wasn't going to come back because he wanted to leave and go home one day. And that was his goal, to get out and go home. So he had a conference call with all of the lieutenants all around the state. And as they talked on the phone, he told them, he said, what I need you to do is find out who's still loyal to the Tasmanian Devil. I need you to ask each and every brother that's on your count, do they plug in or plug out up under my leadership? Do they have a problem with what has taken place? And if they want to plug out, I need you to write their names down, and then you send them to me. And if they say they want to plug in, then write their names down and send them to me as well, and let me know what's going on. That's what J-Mack told each and every one of them. So they did that. And it was roughly 20% of the body that wanted to plug out. They were still loyal to the Tasmanian Devil. They still looked at him as somebody to be respected, no matter what J-Mack had done, no matter what narrative had been put out there, no matter what slanderous things had been said about him. They were suspicious about what was going on, because nobody had explained to them why all of a sudden was what he doing not good enough. He let them breathe, one brother said. He wasn't as strict as all the other leaders, other brothers said. They wanted to be free to do their own thing. And this split in the house couldn't be tolerated. Couldn't be tolerated. That 20% represented a lot of brothers. And he had to figure out a way to deal with them without causing the whole body to fall, to crumble. So he consulted with his lieutenants, and they talked for hours upon hours trying to figure out the best strategy. The best strategy. And one of the lieutenants, the one that's usually quietest, he told him, he said, look, we have to do something that a lot of people are not going to like, but they'll appreciate. He said, we got to figure out who at each institution within those brothers that don't agree with what's going on is the strongest, who's the most vocal. And then he said, we need to cut their throat. And when he said that, it sent shockwaves to all of the other lieutenants that were on the phone. They couldn't believe that he was so cold and calculating toward individuals that just a month ago, 2 months ago, that he considered to be brothers and would put his life on the line for. But he had made it known, if you're not going to be loyal and subordinate to the leadership, then we have nothing, and we may as well end it today. But he was not willing to do that. And as J-Mack listened to him articulate his point and explain why he felt that this was the necessary thing, he understood. Because you find the one that's the most vocal, the one that everybody is listening to, and you cut their throat, the rest of them, love or respect you, either way, they'll fall in line. And that's all they really wanted, was to fall in line. And then this lieutenant, he went on to say, none of this is going to work or turn out the way we want it unless we deal with the Tasmanian devil too. He has to go. He has to go. But J-Mack told him, he said, look, it'll be hard to get to him. It'll be hard for us to get to him now. So we got to figure out what we need to do. But J-Mack knew, just as quick as he said that, he knew that all he had to do was put in a call to the warden. The warden had to figure out how to get him out and under what circumstances. So once he ended the call and told everybody to make the arrangements for all of those individuals that said they wanted to plug out, make the arrangements to find out who they're listening to, who's driving that car. He said, once you find that out, let me know. Let me know. And then we're going to deal with them. So the campaign was on. Find out who the voice is. Find out who's the leader of the dissension. Find out who that is, and we solve all our problems. J-Mack gave the warden a call. And he told him, he said, look, I need you to put the Tasmanian devil back on the compound. And the warden knew what he was getting at. And he told him, can you handle what would happen if something happened to him? And J-Mack told him, there's only one way to find out. But if we don't do what we need to do, we're going to have a problem. Now, see, the warden didn't realize something at that particular time. See, every conversation that J-Mack was having, he was recording them. And the warden didn't realize that. But J-Mack knew he had to make sure he was protected. He understood what these type of men were like. He understood that if you don't keep, you know what I'm saying, an ace in the hole, that you'll just be tossed up. He understood that. So when he talked to the warden and he said all of these things, he made sure that he had record of it, right? And he would send it all the way. He never kept it on his phone. He would always send it out immediately. He never kept it because he never knew when they would be shook down. Just because the warden said he could do anything he wanted to don't mean it necessarily is so. So he had all his conversations in files and sent out. And his sister helped him in a safe place. All of them. So now, the warden said, okay, what do you want him at? He told the warden, put him in B building. See, B building was the ghetto. When I say the ghetto, I don't mean with a small G, I mean with a capital G. For real. Everybody in B building was thugging hard. This is where the hardest of the hardest were housed at. And if you couldn't make it in there, the only other option for you was to go to the back. Because inside of B building, there was no compromise. There was no taking up for one another like that. You had to stand on your own to be part of the crowd. But see, Tasmanian devil, that's what he wanted. He liked to be around those types of individuals. Those are the types of individuals that helped him turn the two-faced mafia into something that J-Mack didn't even recognize. He turned it into a monster machine. So now it was time for him to come out on the compound. The warden had made the call. We're going to put him out and we're going to put him in B building. So J-Mack made the call. He said he's coming out and he's going to be in B building. Don't touch him until I say so. So when he got out, they put him in B building. Tasmanian devil was no fool. He understood what this meant. Something is up. Something is going on. And he had a little time, as far as he knew, to figure out what was going on. He didn't know if they were going to act immediately or drag it out. But whichever way it was, he was going to be ready. So as soon as he hit the compound, he went to the opposition and got strapped. Because he knew by going to the opposition that they would give him a butcher because they wanted to see that fight. If it happened, they don't lose anything. They don't lose anything. And they kept it on low. See, he didn't have to go to a low-ranking individual because he still had the respect and esteem of being the head. So he was able to go to the leadership in the opposition. And they supplied him with whatever he needed on the low. they knew that they could trust that he would never say where it came from, because if it ever came down to that, then he was a dead man anyway. Either the gangsters would kill him, Two-Face Mafia would kill him, the Vice Lords would kill him, some organization within that pod would kill him for running his mouth, especially after somebody had done him a solid. So the time went by, and they were trying to figure out the best time to act. The information started rolling in about all of the individuals that were leading the rebellion within the organization throughout the state, and they figured out who the voices were behind it. And all of these individuals were individuals that had been loyal to Tasmanian Devil, and they didn't like things to change. So J-Mack gave the call. At 6 o'clock on the 6th day, which was exactly 5 days away, get those individuals. And he wanted it all done simultaneously. So when the word went out and people started asking, when did this happen? What happened? Who did it? And all of this and that, they would learn as the story got pieced together that this was a coordinated effort. And he wanted the message to be loud and clear. Don't buck me. Go along or you get ran over. So when the 6th day come and the 6th hour, they struck. And they wiped them out. They didn't even see it coming. It was like they didn't understand the seriousness of it. See, when you're asked to plug in or plug out, you're really being put on notice. You're being put on notice. You're being told that you got a decision to make, and whichever decision you make, it better be in the best interest of the organization first and you second. And if it's not, then woe unto you. Woe unto you. It's not like they didn't warn you. You understand? And that's what happened. And it sent shockwaves. See, those few individuals that were left, that were dissenting, they all changed their minds and they said, we're going to plug in. Genuine or not, J-Mack didn't care. He didn't care. Because the longer they stayed a part of the business, the more subordinate they were going to be to him, the more they were going to be under his thumb. And as long as they were under his thumb, he didn't have anything to worry about because they were submitting to his authority. Voluntarily. With fear, of course, but voluntarily. So at the end of the day, that worked. But when word got to Tasmanian Devil about what had happened, he freaked out. And J-Mack, he had his spies in B building. And they were reporting to him every day, telling him the moves the Tasmanian Devil was making. And they knew that he was spooked. So J-Mack, he sat back, he said, look, send such and such at him. And when the brother stepped to him, he stepped to him as a traitor, not somebody loyal to J-Mack. They needed Tasmanian Devil to open up. They needed to rock him to sleep. They wanted to get him in an area where they could do the most to him without anybody seeing it. This had to be done secretly. Nobody could see this because this is going to send shockwaves as well. And J-Mack didn't want anybody to be seen doing what they were doing. So they waited one day. When the young man went to Tasmanian Devil and earned his trust, he told him, he said, look, I need to talk to you. I need your counsel. Because we need to figure out what to do with the leadership. And Tasmanian Devil, he was on that. He said, we do have a problem, but we can't talk out here because people are listening. Eyes and ears are everywhere. So they had a conference room, a day room, where they could go for privacy. You know, a lot of guys go in there to read their Bibles and play board games and stuff like that, play spades and stuff like that, right? Because they had a table and chairs in there, and they could take the radios up there, and then they could chill and relax. So Tasmanian Devil and the young brother, they went up there, and it was isolated. And the door had a lock on it. And a lot of times when you had gang members, they would be in there, they would take a towel and cover up the window so nobody could see inside, so they couldn't see what they were doing. So this particular day when Tasmanian Devil went up to this conference room and he was in there, him and the young dude, they were in there, and then about 6 gangsters come up in there. And they turned around and they went back out. That was the decoy. Because when they came back down the stairs, they told the Two-Face Mafia, yeah, they're in there. So the next time, 6 brothers from the Two-Face Mafia, they walked up the stairs. They had a towel in their hands. When they walked in, they were armed to the teeth. Armed to the teeth. When they walked in, they pushed everybody to the back of the room. They took the towel and they covered up the door, the window to the door, and pulled the door shut. And then you heard the latch on it locking, click. And then you heard the brothers outside the door. They kicked the door twice to let the brothers on the inside of the room know that they were there. And they proceeded to butcher the Tasmanian Devil. He didn't stand a chance. The young brother that had tricked him up into the room was the one that hit him the final blow and knocked him down. They cleaned up as best they could, changed their clothes, and came out of the room. Perfect. They called J-Mack and they told him. Everything went off without a hitch. They went back to their cells, cleaned up, got in the shower, got rid of all the evidence. And later that day when they were performing a count, the officers were short one body, one inmate. So they started looking. He wasn't in his cell. So one of the officers said, check the conference room. A lot of people hang out in the conference room. When they went up to the conference room, they found him laying on the floor. The Tasmanian Devil had been stuck repeatedly. He was already cold. The officer said the look that he had on his face was sheer fear, terror, horror. It's almost like he knew that this was it. There was nothing he could do. When the word got to the warden said, lock the institution down. And when they locked the institution down, they pulled the cameras. No cameras in the area, but they saw the individuals that was going back and forth to that area. And luckily for the Two-Face Mafia, they saw 6 gangsters going to the cell before them, to the conference room before them. Came in, came out, and they did the same thing, but they stayed in longer. But the evidence was shaky. It didn't take long to do them in. So they locked all of them down, but they couldn't prove anything. Now J-Mack was pleased. Now he had the organization the way he wanted it. One, all united. He got on the phone and he called all around the state to all his lieutenants and he told them, he said, now, the next thing we need to do is to bring everybody together. We need to have unity. We need to have trust. These things that are essential to any organization moving forward. So he called a meeting and he told everybody to have a meeting on their compounds the same day at the same time to explain to the membership that remained why what had to happen happened. They branded the Tasmanian Devil a traitor with no evidence. J-Mack was playing a dangerous game of chess. He had gone all in for the administration. He wanted to go home, and he was willing to do whatever he had to do that, even if it meant manipulating the organization that he ran. You want to find out what happens next, you're going to have to tune in to the next episode. This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I say peace, y'all. I'm getting so tired.